Welcome to the McKean County Road Tour. For the next 30 minutes, we're going to take you to some exciting stops as we take 6. Just a day trip away from many cities in Pennsylvania, Ohio, and New York, in north-central Pennsylvania, McKean County offers travelers a unique vacation. U.S. Route 6, the Grand Army of the Republic Highway, offers travelers a unique slice of Americana. Route 6 has been declared one of America's most scenic byways by National Geographic. We begin our road tour as we take 6 at McKean County's eastern border. This is the ABC Motel. Anytime you stop in at the ABC, you're sure to get service with a smile and a great meal. Just a quick breakfast and we're off on our tour. As we travel west on Route 6, our next stop is Port Allegheny. Our destination, the historic Canoe Place Inn. The building was built in 1859 and the inn started in 1926 and remains virtually unchanged today. The name comes from the days when the inn was a stop along the portage between the Allegheny River and the Portage Creek. Eldred Roosevelt called the Canoe Place Inn one of the more elegant places to stop while touring Route 6. Some locals even call Route 6 the Roosevelt Highway.
Eleanor Roosevelt used to travel that highway on occasion, and she did stay here on at least one occasion that we have documented. And we have all the old records handwritten in of all the different people who stayed here over the years. And it was quite a popular route. 6 was very popular at that time because it was the main route going east-west, you know, before Route 80 and 90 and that sort of thing.
You've been running this inn for a number of years. How has running an inn changed over the years? As
we were looking back over the records, which were daily kept on how many drinks, how many meals, and how much money was taking in, and there was one reference made that said minimum wage, $2 a day. Business is shot. Have to lay off people. We'll never make it.
While in Port Allegheny, we decided to try our hand at golf at the Indian Echo Golf Course. Guess who's going to try? With the majestic mountains as a backdrop, we couldn't help have fun, even if our golf game was a little off. It seems we have made some new friends on our way to Smethport. A Harley is a pretty cool way to take 6.
Where else but in Smethport can you find a floating Coast Guard cutter in the middle of the mountains?
Only at Allegheny Arms and Armor. This is a museum dedicated to America's military might. Just up the road in Eldred is the World War II Museum. During the war, this site was the perfect place for the U.S. military to hide their munitions factory. At the height of the war, 1,500 people, 95% of whom were women, were employed making munitions to supply American and British soldiers in Europe.
I worked on the mortar bomb. I did everything on those, not all in one day. We had like lines and they would pass on down the line. I did everything except put in the last detonator. And when we got through with it, I would take 2 at a time and hang them on a conveyor. The conveyor was a built-in one that went to the next building. And that building is where they put the last detonator in.
What was the work atmosphere like? Were you ever scared?
The first day I did, because led me down to this building, and I looked up and all the great big dirt walls around it, and I asked that, and the lady taking us down said, well, if we have an accident and the building goes, you will all go up. You won't get any other building. That was scary, maybe 3-4 days, but then it was old, got used to it.
Largely staffed by veterans, this museum serves as a living tribute to all who served in World War II.
The whole world was at war, let's put it that way, and you knew that you were eventually going to go. And so you didn't plan much of anything else. You knew you was going to go into service, and that was it. Saw quite a bit. And the outfit I was in, I wasn't a rifleman. I was in a cannon company, they called it. We had it was a modified 105 howitzer. And it was especially designed for close-in artillery for infantry.
Do you remember where you were on VE Day?
We were in Austria. We had a German Panzer Division trapped in the mountains in Austria, right outside of Salzburg. And word came that there was a ceasefire, and then we got scared. I mean, we were really scared, because what if the guy up there did that word, you know? And we've gone through all this and have ceasefire, and all of a sudden, bingo, your lights are out, you know? This place, I take great pride in it. It's telling a story about probably the greatest period in American history, as far as I'm concerned.
Back in Smethport, you'll find America's first Christmas store. Founded in 1935 as the first store in America dedicated only to Christmas items.
Josh, what are you doing?
Oh, I'm just starting my Christmas list.
Sports Hammond Lake is the home of the pink ugly. Yeah, you heard me right, the pink ugly. Fish love it. But what exactly is it?
It's for fly fishermen. It's marabou, and then it's tied on a hook, and it's a number 8 hook. And it takes me, a good half hour, 45 minutes to make one of them. And then we have the eyes on there. And there's a little bit of white, and I think that helps.
How'd you come up with the pink ugly?
Well, Ron and I tie flies at night. And this was about 11:30 one night, and I got all finished, and I said, I'm tired, I want to go to bed. And I said, I tied this, what do you think about it? He said, well, it's pretty, but it won't catch a fish. Well, then Charlie Mick from Penn State came to interview Ron on the fly tying shop. And before he left, Ronnie gave him one. Well, it was about 2 weeks later, Charlie called and he said, I want to come up and interview you on that pink fly. He came up, and when Ron gave him this, took it down the net next day or so. They went out fishing, and it was a cloudy day, and it was kind of a mucky water. And he opened up his box, and he saw this, and he said, I want to try it. And as you can see in that article, he said he caught 12 right off the bat with the pink ugly. And his son said, Dad, is it you or is it the fly? He said, well, here, you try the fly. And he started catching them. And there were some other guys around there, and they came over to see what it was. And that's how it came to be. It was about years ago now. And I've been tying them ever since.
Off to Mount Jewett and Kinzua Bridge State Park. We're hoping to catch a glimpse of the Knox-Cane Railroad as it crosses the Kinzua Bridge. A classic engine pulls riders along 96 miles of wild beauty and across the eighth wonder of the world, the over 1,000-foot expanse of the Kinzua Viaduct. The Knox-Cane Railroad gives travelers a chance to go back to the time when railroads were king.
At Lance Corners, Route 219 intersects with Route 6, running north to Bradford, the perfect place for our first side trip. Bradford's home to the only McDonald's with a working oil well, but it's better known for this sound. You guessed it, the Zippo click. Welcome to Zippo Case Visitor Center. Visitors can trace the history of two American icons, Zippo lighters and case knives.
You will see a video stating the history of Zippo and case, how World War II actually made the Zippo case, or the Zippo lighter, famous. It was the most coveted on the battlefield, according to Ernie Pyle, famous war correspondent. You would see the world-famous Zippo repair clinic on display, repairing approximately 1,000 lighters a day that come in from all over the world, and much of it is now the collectibles that come in for repair. You would see ZAC, our audio-kinetic ball machine, which ZAC is spelled Z-A-C, which stands for Zippo and Case. This was built for the children that attended the museum. We needed an attraction for the children. And it's turned out that it's been an attraction for the children and the adults. Everyone loves it.
There are thousands of Zippo lighters and as many stories behind their unique design. How did Zippo get its name?
The name Zippo came to be because Mr. Blaisdell was impressed with the zipper that was just invented in Meadville, Pennsylvania. And he couldn't use the word zipper, so he changed the ER to an O and it became Zippo.
You may even be able to catch this one-of-a-kind beauty, the Zippo car. What's this behind the Zippo car?
The Zippo car, the idea for it, of course Mr. Blaisdell came up with it, but he was impressed with the Peppermint Patty, or Peppermint Lifesaver truck that they had in 1918. He was looking for different ways to promote the Zippo, and so he came up with the idea to get a car and customize it with his Zippo lighter for doors, and customized the hubcaps and and he purchased a 1947 Chrysler Saratoga. The total cost delivered was $2,048. He sent it to Gardner Display in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. They did the customization on it, brought it back, and it traveled all over the United States. The problem was that the chassis did not support the weight of the big lighter doors. So they kept blowing tires, and they bring it home, and so a gentleman in Pittsburgh who owned a Ford dealership by the name of Mr. Toohey said that he could take this car, put a truck chassis beneath it, and this would support the weight of the lighters, the doors. So he sent it, Mr. Blaisdell sent it to Mr. Toohey in Pittsburgh to have this customization done. Well, that was in the 50s, early 50s. And Zippo really started growing, and no one checked on the car. And Mr. Toohey didn't call to ask about it. So in the early 70s, we decided to check on the Zippo car. Well, when we checked, two owners had gone out of business. Mr. Toohey had passed away, and there was just no business to check. We checked around the area, There was no sight of the Zippo car, no fenders, no anything. So we decided that we'd better do another one. So in 1997, we purchased another Chrysler, had it customized in the same fashion that the original one was done, but this one was done in Tennessee. And it was third, and it's been traveling all over the United States. It's been to Chicago, it's been to California, and we promote it as much as we can, and we love it.
Our next side trip is just south of Bradford in Custer City at the Penn Brad Oil Museum. The museum tracks Bradford's rich oil history.
Back in 1971, we celebrated the 100th anniversary of the discovery of oil in Bradford. And we thought it would be appropriate to build a standard drilling rig that were similar to the almost 800 that were running back in the 1894s at one time drilling for oil in this area. Bradford oil field is the first billion-dollar oil field, and it comprises about 90,000 acres in this area. It's an exciting time, and at that time, the oil from Bradford supplied over 83% of all the oil used in the United States.
We enter a world of fireside pumpers, where barkers, yellow dogs, and hurry-up sticks were tools of the trade.
Almost all the equipment we have is over 100 years old, and most of it has disappeared from the area. We think preserving the history of that era is valuable so that we can perhaps provide a more perfect future and learn from the mistakes in the past.
By now, we're getting hungry, so we're headed for the West Line Inn.
The West Line Inn is known for its relaxed atmosphere and innkeeper Jonathan Pomeroy's cooking, all on the quiet banks of Kinzoo Creek.
The West Line Inn was originally a home for Edmund L. Day, who owned the town of West Line back in the 1900s, around the turn of the century. In 1944, he willed his home to Ruth Enos, and Ruth Enos built the hotel now, as you see it, and ran it as a hotel till 1975 when we bought the hotel and have been here since. Back in the old days, the woodcutters would come in here, and Ruth Enos would take care of them. She prepared good meals for them, and we've been at it since then too.
Final side trip off of Route 6 takes us down Route 219 over the McKean County line to Johnsonburg. We're here at Willamette Industries to learn more about making paper. It all starts with wood chips from the slab trimmings of timber industry, ensuring the integrity is put to good use.
Our main resource material here is hardwood chips, and a large proportion of those chips are actually sawmill residuals, things that come as a byproduct of the manufacture of lumber. Another good portion of the material comes from tree tops, less desirable species of trees, items that used to be left in the woods. We felt very fortunate to receive one of last year's Governor's Awards for waste minimization.
Paper has been produced in Johnsonburg since 1888. A Willamette industry is now a world leader in the production of paper for the printing industry, plus copy paper and envelopes. These chips are first cooked. This is called the pulping process. The cooked chips are then bleached. The pulp is then put on a forming table where the sheet of paper is formed. The paper is then pressed and dried. The paper is then coated with a sizing agent, which enables ink to correctly bond to the paper's surface. The coated paper is then wound onto a large roll called the parent roll. From the parent roll, the paper is cut and shipped around the world. Willamette Industries is dedicated to protecting our environment. They even have a trout nursery at the plant.
As far as we know, that is Pennsylvania's only cooperative fish nursery. We really are not operating a hatchery, but we received the fry from the Pennsylvania Game Commission, and this whole idea was conceived by several of our employees who wished management about utilizing a vacant building that we had. Most of our fish, when they reach maturity, are stocked in our local streams, probably ranging within about 35 miles of the mill. But we try to concentrate mostly in the local area.
Next stop, the Thomas Kane Memorial Chapel, family chapel of the famous commander of the Bucktail Regiment.
The chapel was Designed and built in 1876 to 1878. The design is fashioned after a sketch that Thomas Kane drew when he was in England studying in the 1837. Thomas Kane specified that all materials would be local materials. That's why you see the black cherry wood in the ceilings and all around, and that it would also be constructed by local laborers. And the building was then purchased in 1970 and renovated by the Mormon Church, and we had a lady from California come in to show her daughter where she was married, and she came in and says, "This is where I was married." And it looks just like it did when I got married. It's really beautiful.
In the town of Ludlow is the stately Olmsted Manor. Olmsted Manor is a beautiful 1970s mansion. It's a 325-acre estate surrounded by serene gardens and foot trails that allow you to appreciate nature's quiet beauty in the middle of the Allegheny National Forest. Tell me a little bit about the history of Olmsted Manor.
The family house that we're in now was built in 1916-17. Actually, the landscaping, all the diversion of the water, preceded the building of this building by almost 5 years, so that the waterfalls, the cascade, because of all the springs, had been built first, and then the mansion built after that. Mrs. Olmsted and Elizabeth were the ones that made arrangements to turn the estate to the church. So the offer was made to the Western Pennsylvania Conference of the United Methodist Church to use as an adult retreat center.
What are some of the more interesting features of the manor?
The most noticeable thing is the unique use of space. The incredible use of every nook and cranny, from the bowling alley on the 3rd floor, which includes a little room off the bowling alley that was the radio room. So when Westinghouse came online in 1920, they could get KDKA here in Ludlow. I think the other things I really notice are the use of plaster work, because you'll see in the plaster work the Olmsted and the Pendleton, part of the arms, the shields. You'll see their family shields and crests in the stained glass windows. You'll see them in the tile work on the front entrance.
Who comes to Olmsted Manor today?
Our primary purpose is to use Olmsted Manor as an adult retreat center. And primary use would be for groups, and often church-related or not-for-profit related groups, who will come in either for residential usage, which is our primary goal, where folks can come spend 2 or 3 days. We can provide them all the service that they want. They can bring their own schedule, their own leadership, their own agenda. Olmsted also provides probably a dozen to 15 continuation events a year for lay and clergy. And then we open the space up for individuals, not so much as a bed and breakfast, because almost all of our contacts are church-related. But when persons call and say we need a place to get away for a night or 2 nights, we open the facility up that way too.
Ludlow is also home to Hat Park. With its unique design and quaint style, we can drift back in time when a lady carried a parasol and gentlemen were truly gentlemen.
By far the crown jewel of McKean County is the wild beauty of Allegheny National Forest. How big is the Allegheny National Forest?
The Allegheny National Forest encompasses 513,000 acres over a 4-county area. 4 acres about the size of a football field, so 513,000 football fields that encompass the National Forest, with 3 major rivers, the Allegheny, the Clarion, and the Tionesta Creek. And it also encompasses a number of recreation sites, a broad array of timber opportunities, black cherry being the most highly sought after timber species, and we have, of course, an active program growth and harvest of timber. We also have an abundance of wildlife species on the National Forest, and over 500 miles of stream and creeks in which spawn naturally occurring trout. The forest also is a home for a number of watersheds, which are the hills and the mountains as they combine and collect the rainwater, and then the water eventually filters through the soil and comes down into a number of local communities, provides a drinking water source, a number of communities around here. And of course some other opportunities in the National Forest that abound for a person, especially in the recreation field. Over 500 miles of hiking trails and ATV trails and cross-country ski trails. And of course we also have trails within the wilderness area. We have a very nice wilderness area called the Hickory Creek, and that's over 8,800 acres. And that's a true wilderness area where you'll not see any real signs of man's imprint like mechanical. There's no bikes or cars, etc. Very true wilderness area.
What does the Park Service do to keep the forest healthy?
And when we harvest the old growth, that would be the large trees, we make sure that the understory of new trees already existing. If it doesn't exist already, because we have a lot of deer around here, we'll fence the area so it will then seed in, and we'll get young saplings that will grow to be 10 or 15 feet high. 8 foot of fencing will keep the out. And then when we have the established seedlings already in hand, grown naturally, then we'll harvest the last seed trees or shelterwood trees, the big old ones. They'll come off, and then you now have a new stand of timber in the desired species. And we can control the type of species and the density. In this way we get a variety of age growth, a variety of food sources on the floor of the forest, and we also get a variety of species where are beneficial for the deer, the turkey, the grouse, bear, all the other species that exist in the National Forest.
For outdoor fun, nothing beats the Allegheny National Forest.
Funding for TICS has been provided by the Zippo Case Visitor Center, Bradford, Northern Pennsylvania's most visited museum, home of the world-famous Zippo lighters and case knives. Coasphere, when it comes to passive components, we're the active supplier. American Refining Group, high-quality pen-grade lubricants smooth the way on the road to adventure on Route 6. Kessel Construction, built on experience, building businesses and industry since 1934. The wonders of Christmas can be found every day at America's first Christmas store in Smyrna, Pennsylvania. Willamette Industries of Johnsonburg, one of America's leading manufacturers of specialty and commodity-grade paper.
So the next time you're looking for something cool to do, come to McKean County and take 6!